going a little crazy right now, but some other folks who are going crazy as well. There's Michigan fans, there's Buckeye fans, there's fans across all college football who are going crazy because, the allegations against the Michigan football program for the Connor Stallions scandal. Yet Jim Harbaugh has continually denied any knowledge of what was happening or taking place, despite the fact he, along with 6 other coaches, have received level 1 or 2 infractions. And Jim Harbaugh, now the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, talked about this, about his involvement at the Chargers training camp. Take a listen.
Yeah, I do have a comment on that. Never lie, never cheat, never steal. I was raised with that lesson. I have raised my family on that lesson. I have preached that lesson to the teams that I've coached. No one's perfect. If you stumble, you apologize, and you make it right. Today, I do not apologize. I did not participate, was not aware, nor complicit in those said allegations.
Felt like we had a little more meat on the bone there, Lee. Did we just cut that one off a bit short, or what happened there?
It sounded like he was on some Bill Clinton type stuff. I did not have relations with that woman. So it
she popped
like,
up from under the desk. This is
have sexual relations with that woman.
Yeah, sound like
Miss Lewinsky.
Sound like Coach.
I never told anybody to lie.
Sound
not
like
a single
Coach.
time. Never.
Sound like Coach.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
You get a vivid recollection of that. I was young when that happened, but I do recall the accent and him denying it.
Yeah.
I didn't recall the second part. Was I never told anyone to lie.
Yeah. I was raised, tell the truth, not to lie, cheat, or steal. I raised my family on that.
Are we really doing this, though, again this year?
Why did he feel like he needed, you tell me, why, you're not even there
well,
anymore.
I think he was asked about it. So, he's.
I've been you already know. That's in the rear view, know. And spaceships don't come equipped with rear view mirrors. They go forward, No reverse.
The thing that I was a little upset we cut off there, the reason why I was pointing this out to Lee is he usually finishes off like some sort of motivational line. Attacking each day with enthusiasm unknown to mankind. It's something like that he will finish the soundbite off with. Mm-hmm. And I always laugh because what Jim Harbaugh finishes the quote with is what you end up paying attention to because you're like, what the hell did he just say?
Right.
You're like, that sounds good, but yeah, okay. Anyway, not to get off on a tangent. What was that, Lee?
I do have the end of that quote if you want to hear it real quick. Here it is.
Let's hear it.
Participate, was not aware nor complicit in those said allegations. So for me, it's back to work and attacking with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
There you go. There you go.
I love it. First off, he's the only coach that in my time, once I got into broadcasting and all that, he would say that. He would say other things similar to that. And I would always be taken back by all right, if you say it every day, you say it enough, eventually everyone starts kind of buying and believing it too. It's just, who you are. It's part of that. Mm-hmm. But it always struck me as what the hell did he say before that? I can't remember. I'm so attracted to the attacking each day with enthusiasm unknown to mankind that I don't even know what he said before that. So anyway, I can't believe we're doing this again. And my stance on this last year, and it hasn't changed, and just from knowing probably too much, is, again, people who want to look at Michigan and say, oh, well, they were doing this for years, and look at their success. And look, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. I understand one of the reasons why this narrative still continues is because there's a lot of Buckeye fans out there who are not happy with how the Ohio State-Michigan game has gone in the past 3 years. And here's the truth. Okay, if Connor Stallions was helping you the previous 2 years, okay. This past year, he wasn't on the sidelines. He wasn't helping. He wasn't there during that season. And I've continually told teams and fans that have an issue with this, be careful what you say and you wish for. Because oftentimes you point the finger, you got 4 pointing right back at you. And I know of some programs that have some guys that have done this sort of thing, and they haven't gotten in trouble or they haven't been exposed because it's that rampant. And for all the people who keep showing these clips of guys on the sidelines who look across the sidelines and then they're still, they're signaling back into their defense. There's one with C.J. Stroud in the Ohio State-Michigan game, and everyone's like, "Oh, see this clip? See this?" No, that's actually allowed. They're actually allowed to steal signs on these sidelines. So stop showing the clip because it doesn't matter. And most teams, if they're smart enough, they know. And I promise you this from covering the Big Ten championship game that Michigan's been in the past 2 years. Each of their opponents knew. They knew exactly what was going on. This past year, they didn't have Stallions, so it didn't matter. Didn't really need them. But 2 years ago, the teams knew. And I won't go as far as saying what other teams in the league did to compensate that because it was pretty messed up too. But I would caution people, like, be careful of what you wish for. Because if you want to open up this Pandora's box, everyone had their hand in the cookie jar. And everyone was doing some fashion or form of advanced scouting and figuring this all out and trying to get an edge. That's how sports work, folks. Everyone's trying to get an edge. Everyone's trying to find a way of taking whatever is gray and forcing the NCAA or the conference to make it black and white. You can or cannot do this. And the best teams, by the way, usually do that. Bill Belichick is notorious for always taking a rule and saying, well, let's really put the officials, to the grinder here to see if they can actually come up with how they're going to call this consistently. Because we might feel like we have an advantage or a loophole that we could take advantage of. That's how it usually works. It works in the business world like this. So I hate that we're rehashing this again, and I know it has everything to do with the time of year and the NCAA coming out and saying, hey, Sherrone Moore might be suspended or what have you. Let's move on. We have coached the quarterback now. We don't need this. We will not need this moving forward. So it should be a non-conversation. It didn't play any role, in my opinion, in Michigan winning the national championship last year. When they needed to have Connor Stallions the most, they didn't have them. And they still won. They went undefeated. They beat their best opponents.
Without their head coach.
Without their head coach, too. They not only did not have the scout that was helping, they didn't have their head coach. Give them their credit where credit is due. That's all I'm saying. Like, let's move on from all this. That's my take on it.
Yeah, again, sign stealing. There was the idea of it. I guess you made the point of it yesterday that the investigation was still ongoing. I just think that it should have been to the benefit of the NCAA. And I just feel like the fact that this is continuing to linger on, it just leads me to believe, I won't say believe, it makes me question where's the push coming from? Like, is there someone that is a decision maker that is a pro Ohio State person? Is there some type of background conspiracy theory? Is there something going on that leads to the reason why this would continue on into the next season? Because Stallions has been gone. The head coach is now gone. Close the investigation. It's not like this was to me, this is not a legal situation. It's not, there's nothing here to me that is at this point tremendously egregious where there should continue to be a microscope put and placed on Michigan or its new head coach. That's my take on it. And the more it persists the way that it is, it's almost like, are you witch hunting for a reason in particular? Because the ultimate punishment that could be levied against Michigan outside of losing scholarships or suspension of games, vacating of games would be to lose your coach. And, oh, by the way, they have a new head coach. The coach left. So what else is there? Like, we're going to continue on. Oh, let's get the current head coach. Let's see if we can set them back for at least a game or two, because really all that's going to happen is there's going to be a penalty levied against the head coach, correct? This isn't anything else beyond they want to look at text messages or whatever or seen text messages from Sharon, and now they want to suspend him as well. If this was the case, then to me, you should have did it all last season.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense to carry it on into this season knowing that they have a new head coach and it's a new season. It just seems like there's something here. The deck, it seems seemingly loaded against Michigan for some reason, and I'm not sure. It makes you wonder.
It makes you wonder. And look, I understand that going back to last year when you look at the timeline of things, again, the initial suspension to Jim Harbaugh to start the season.
Something different.
Well, and it was self-imposed. It was self-imposed.
Yeah.
It was during that contact during
these
COVID.
Super egregious, disqualifying of breaking the rules. Like what is that? What it was? He bought some burgers or something for recruits.
It's something along those lines. I think there's a little bit more.
Okay,
but that being said, that was in essence what that initial suspension was for, where Sharon Moore and another of coaches on their staff actually rotated the head coaching responsibilities, and then it was more from the pressure of the Big Ten that caused Jim Harbaugh to miss those pivotal games during the course of the regular season. So then that became part of that storyline. But we knew the NCAA could eventually lay down their punishment this past spring. However, it extended further into the summertime before the season. So that's why we're at where we're at. That's why this is resurfacing back up in the news. But one of the reasons why it's continually being asked about is because for Jim Harbaugh, who you'd think like, hey, if things don't go well with the Chargers, he's young enough and has been successful enough at the college level, he would have an opportunity to come back to college football. However, with these sorts of level 1 infractions that show cause, like that could prevent him from doing so.
And maybe that's the reason why he made that statement, is to set the stage for, if that were to happen, him to possibly return to college.
And look, he wasn't compliant in the investigation by the NCAA. At least that's one of the accusations. So if that's the case, I can only imagine how much harder he's going to make their life coming all the way across the country to LA to try to interview him as the head coach of a National Football League team, and how busy he is. So there's that element too, where if you thought it was difficult to get a hold of him back when he was coaching at Michigan, just wait now. Just wait now how hard it's going to be if he tries to appeal and they try to go through the rigorous process of figuring this all out. Again, we will see if what the punishment is and what Michigan decides to do from there. Maybe they're just happy with the fact that let's just get this over. Let's move on from it. College football has adapted now. The coach, the quarterback, where they have the radio systems in their helmet. So this really shouldn't be necessary anymore to continue to have these issues with sign stealing. There's always elements of that. I mean, even in the NFL, I mean, you're allowed to look at game film, and if you see stuff that a player or a coach is doing on the game film you're provided, you're allowed to look at that and say, hey, this is their signal for this. If we shift or motion and they do this signal, that's what they run. I mean, it's happening right now in training camp. You have the offense versus the defense. You don't think every offense on their team knows their defensive signals? That's how it works. That's you're always trying to look for an advantage. So I'm hoping this goes away sooner rather than later. That may upset some Buckeyes fans. But again, I would say this. Like, if you're Ohio State, you don't need to have like an excuse or an asterisk next to why you beat them this year. You don't want to blame something. Like you want to beat them. You want to beat them in Columbus fair and square where that game is going to be played. That's at least how I would want it. I wouldn't want to say, oh, well, they really beat him because of this. They didn't have their head coach, or they didn't have this, and the team was in a state of chaos. You'd rather say, like, no, we took their best shot and we beat them. We're the better team. And I do think Ohio State will beat them. I do think they're the better team. But that rivalry is that big. That's one of the reasons why I think this perpetuates this conversation, honestly. So,
well, I think that gives Michigan tremendous motivation to be prepared. If they didn't need any more, it just seems like it's them against the world, and they took that and they rode that and won a national title. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did it again.
Well, I would be, only because of how much they've lost. I think it's going to be a tougher year than people realize for Michigan.
Absolutely.
So a lot of things in transition, a lot of moving parts.